Hey everybody, Ash here with Gents, and it's top 10 list time. Feels like it's been forever for me since I've done a top 10 list based around a time of year. So you can already tell by the title of the video what this is. It's my top 10 list for spring designers. So I'll have the niche list probably in a week or so, but for now, let's go ahead and dive into these designers. So number 10 is a fragrance that's done well in previous spring lists. I have 2 bottles of this. It is an Yves Saint Laurent fragrance, one that I think is just fantastic for this time of year, very versatile, compliment getting, great fragrance. It is L'Homme Ultime. Ginger, rose, cedar, cardamom, and grapefruit are some of the notes here, and this came out in 2016. It's got a really great blend of bracing spice and citrus in the opening, and as it dries down, you get the rose note that this one is probably most well known for. It's a really fresh and masculine rose, and that's what kind of sets this apart from the other fragrances in the L'Homme line. It gives it a little bit of a unique quality. In the dry down, it's mainly cedar with the supporting notes from before, the spice, the rose, tiny bits of citrus that are left over. And in the dry down, it's maybe not as inviting as it is in the opening and mid. It's not a bad dry down, just not quite as unique as the opening and mid are. Either way, good compliment getter, very versatile, and it's got above average performance for me as well. Solid fragrance and still one of my favorites in the entire L'Homme or La Nuit de L'Homme line in Yves Saint Laurent's collection. But this one is a little bit lower than it has been in the past because I've already gotten some wear of this over the past couple years and I'm wanting to work in a few other things. So number 10, Yves Saint Laurent L'Homme Ultime. All right, so number 9, some of you out there are gonna say that this is a niche fragrance, so I'm gonna have to explain this a little bit. And some of you already know what the deal is with me just bringing that up. This is from the house of Guerlain, and Guerlain technically is a niche house, but the way that I view them is the way that a lot of you out there view them, and the way that you might view Tom Ford or Dior or something like that. Guerlain has some fragrances that are very expensive, and those are definitely niche fragrances, or at least I would consider them niche. Then they have other fragrances that are much more affordable and much more in line with designers. So that's where you have things like L'Homme Ideal, Eau de Toilette, Eau de Parfum, Sport, Cologne, all that stuff. That's a very designer line. So I consider those more designer. So what I said with Tom Ford, you have stuff like Black Orchid, Grey Vetiver, that's more in line with designer. Then you have the private blend, stuff like Tuscan Leather, Tobacco Vanille, that's more niche. Dior, you have stuff like Subash, more designer. And then you have stuff like Bois d'Argent, more niche. So for the sake of this list, this fragrance is being considered designer by me. If you want to consider it niche, go for it, but I don't. So that was a long-winded explanation. Number 9, Guerlain Vetiver. Now this originally came out in 1961, but then was relaunched in 2000. This is actually one of the newer style bottles, so if you buy it now, this is what it's going to look like. I do have older bottles of this fragrance, which I'll grab really quickly. So yeah, this is how the fragrance is gonna come down most likely if you buy it. Notice the different cap. And this is how it used to look. So you can see there, the slightly older cap style. I've got a lot of these. I actually really like this fragrance, obviously. I've even got this old school bottle, and then this one, which is actually Vetiver Frozen Cologne. This is a discontinued version of this fragrance. So now you've seen 3 different ways that this fragrance has been packaged. It's got vetiver, tobacco, bergamot, pepper, and leather. Now this is a little bit of a more old school masculine kind of fragrance, which again you would expect because it was originally released in 61. It has moments of darkness, but that's mainly at the opening. And it pretty quickly segs into kind of a green, fresher vetiver that comes across even a little bit soapy. So while this does have a ton of notes, and a lot of the notes in this are, you know, very powerful masculine kind of notes that you would expect with a very dark, dank kind of fragrance, it doesn't come across that way at all. In actuality, all those notes work together and turn this into a classy, sophisticated, even kind of modern vetiver scent. Even though it's a Guerlain, you can pick this up at discounters for under 30 bucks. That's a good deal. Longevity is good on this one, projection more average. And according to Celebrity Fragrance Guide, this fragrance is worn by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And if this is good enough for Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's good enough for me. Number 9, Guerlain Vetiver. Gonna take us to number 8. It's a Prada. It's a Luna Rossa. It's one that I haven't talked about in quite a while, and it's one that I'm gonna try to work in this spring. Super versatile, super people pleasing, super compliment getting. Prada, Luna Rossa, Sauvage. I mean, carbon. Ambroxan lavender, metallic notes, coal, and soil. Some of the notes here. And this one came out in 2017. Like I said, kind of poking fun at it, this gets compared to Dior Sauvage. And for a good reason. This is essentially Prada's version of Dior Sauvage. Not as harsh, not as loud as Sauvage. The edges are kind of rounded off, and to me, it's just a little bit more wearable. Carbon takes that DNA and just kind of makes it a little classier. Not as in your face, not as strong as Sauvage. It's dialed back a little bit more subdued. It's got a very prominent lavender and ambroxan, just like a more grown-up Dior Sauvage. You can wear it in literally every single situation that you could think of, and it's gonna work for you. It's gonna take me to number 7. It is a newer one that I've gotten in. It's from Dunhill. It is Century. This one came out in 2018. I actually featured this on my latest haul video. And smelling this, you can tell it's a spring type fragrance, that it's gonna work really well in spring. That's why I wanna work it in this year. You know, see how it does for me. It has cypriol, sandalwood, neroli, and citrus as some of the main notes. It's got a fresh, citric, kind of green opening to it. And actually, off the initial blast, it reminds me of a more youthful, more warm weather version of Dunhill Icon. The neroli and bergamot in here smells super similar to the neroli and bergamot in Icon. Main difference is Icon does have that peppery kind of Terre d'Hermès vibe. This one does not have that, but it does make sense that this would smell similar or have similarities to Dunhill Icon, because the perfumer that did Dunhill Icon did Dunhill Century too. Century has a pleasant sandalwood in the dry down. It's got a brisk nature to the fragrance, and it's the type of scent that's gonna work really well as it starts to warm up outside. So number 7, Dunhill Century. It's gonna take me to number 6. It's a fragrance that I have reviewed. It's one that's very mainstream, very appealing. In terms of compliments, this is gonna be one of the tops on this list, if not the top. It might even beat out Luna Rosa Carbon, honestly. It is this guy, Yves Saint Laurent Y Eau de Parfum. This one came out in 2018. Apple, sage, amberwood, and ginger, some of the main notes here. It does have a shower gel kind of vibe to it to my nose, so this is not gonna be the fragrance for you if you're looking for something hyper unique, if you're looking for something that's gonna set you apart from everybody else out there. But if you're looking for something, again, kind of like Luna Rosa Carbon, that you just spray on and go, don't have to think about, and you know everybody's gonna think you smell great, at least everybody out there that's not a hardcore fragrance enthusiast, then yeah, this one's gonna work awesome for you. This one's got a fruity, sweet, masculine vibe to it. It utilizes amberwood, which I talked about a couple of videos ago in my Aqua de Jo Absolute Instinct review. Y Eau de Parfum does have that amberwood. It's got a good amount of it, and I mean, people love it. What do you want me to tell you? Number 6, Y Eau de Parfum. Gonna take me to number 5. This is a La Lique fragrance. This is one that I don't think I've actually talked about on this channel before. Out of everything on this list, this is probably the biggest bang for buck in terms of how much you pay versus what you get. It is La Lique Encre Noir Sport. This one came out in 2013. It is a flanker to the original Encre Noir. This one has vetiver, cypress, grapefruit, and watery notes. Encre Noir is known as being just an incredible bang for your buck, like I just said. You can pick it up for under $30 for a 100 milliliter bottle size. It's got a classy bottle. The fragrance is, I hate to say this, but it's niche quality. But a lot of people, especially people that are maybe newer into fragrances or just casually into fragrances who don't really care about artistry or anything like that, they might find Encre Noir a little bit unwearable. I don't think Encre Noir is a challenging scent. It's just a lot of people are gonna get hit with that big blast of, you know, vetiver and cypress and woodsy notes, and they're gonna be turned off. Encre Noir Sport takes Encre Noir and makes it more wearable. There's still a big emphasis on the vetiver and the cypress in this fragrance, but it's toned down, it's dialed back, it's subdued. And it has an aquatic citrus undertone that's gonna make it more appealing to more people. So that makes this a wonderful, green, bright, even fresh take on Encre Noir. Now, Encre Noir Sport may not be a compliment monster like Y Eau de Parfum or Luna Rosa Carbon, but as far as just being an extremely high quality, fresh fragrance that you can pick up for next to nothing, I don't think there's really very much out there that can rival Encre Noir Sport. High quality, fresh, wearable, while at the same time being gentlemanly and sophisticated. Encre Noir Sport, great fragrance. It's gonna take me to number 4. This is a fragrance that I have not talked about on this channel before. I picked this up a couple months back and actually was really surprised by it. and I've been waiting to give this some wear. It is this one, Sardine Reflect. This one has tonka, apple, lavender, leather, and violet as some of the notes, and it came out in 2017. Now, one thing about this fragrance, you may see this bottle and think, oh, that's an ugly bottle. Personally, I don't think that it's really an ugly bottle, but I've seen a lot of people comment about it and say how it's just ugly and horrible to look at. I don't get worked up about bottles too much, but to me it looks okay. I mean, maybe not the prettiest bottle that I've ever seen in my life, but I've seen worse. Now, this one has gotten compared to Yves Saint Laurent La Nuit de l'Homme and Yves Saint Laurent L'Homme and CH Men by Carolina Herrera, and honestly about 15 other fragrances out there. If you look up reviews for this on Fragrantica or Base Notes or really anywhere that you can find information on this fragrance, you'll see a lot of comparisons to a lot of different scents. And while it might share a little bit from each one of those, it's not the same as any of them. Initially, this does have a similar vibe to La Nuit de l'Homme, like when you first spray it on or when you smell it from the atomizer. And yeah, I might even be able to see a vibe to a lot of fragrances out there. Like I mentioned, it's been compared to a ton of them. It's got a great apple citrus violet in the opening and a familiar tonka leather dry down. It's modern while still being slightly mature. It's definitely appealing, it's sexy, and it's got good performance to boot. So while the bottle might look cheap, the fragrance does not smell cheap. I actually bought this one blind, and I'm glad I did. So at number 4, Sardine Reflect. That's gonna take me to number 3. It's a Narciso Rodriguez fragrance. That is Narciso Rodriguez for Homme Bleu Noir. And this is the Eau de Toilette. There's also an Eau de Parfum version. Cardamom, musk, vetiver, and cedar, some of the main notes, and this came out in 2015. This one has gotten comparisons to Hermes, Terre d'Hermes, and Cartier Declaration. To me though, this fragrance is actually more modern and more wearable than each one of those. Those fragrances are definitely classics, and I'm not taking anything away from them. I'm just saying that if you put those 3 in front of me and said you can only pick one to wear this spring, it would be this one, and it wouldn't be close. Now, some of you may say that this is maybe more of a fall time fragrance, but for me, this spring, especially when it's cooler outside, this one's gonna work great. It's very sophisticated and gentlemanly while at the same time being very versatile. The cardamom here comes off more of like a fresh cardamom. It's not your sweeter kind of date night type cardamom note. It's got a woody spicy nutmeg, a sweet musk, and then a dry grassy vetiver. And this is another one that has really good performance off my skin. Narciso Rodriguez Bleu Noir Eau de Toilette. Number 2 is a Dior fragrance. It is the only Dior fragrance to make the list this time. It's a Fahrenheit flanker Fahrenheit cologne. Violet, bergamot, orange, lemon, and vetiver are some of the notes. And this one came out in 2015. At this point, Fahrenheit cologne is basically a replacement for Aqua Fahrenheit. And Aqua Fahrenheit for a time there was your de facto summer Fahrenheit fragrance. So if you wanted that Fahrenheit vibe, but you didn't want the intensity, you didn't want that extreme petrol note or you know, just the thickness, the density, the projection, the power of Dior Fahrenheit, you would go with Aqua Fahrenheit. But Aqua Fahrenheit nowadays is much harder to find, so that has left us with this one, Fahrenheit Cologne. Basically, it is what you would expect it is. It's a fresher take on Dior Fahrenheit. The petrol vibe, that gas note, gasoline that you get from Dior Fahrenheit Eau de Toilette, it is not here. The violet here is a fresher take on violet. It's almost semi-soapy as it heads into the mid. The opening here is actually a very bright, fresh blast of citrus, that lemon, bergamot, and orange. Once that fades away, you have that semi-soapy violet that does come across a touch powdery, along with vetiver and a decent dose of spice. I know a lot of you out there may not really like Dior Fahrenheit, but to me, it's a complete classic. I really like that DNA. But obviously in spring and summer, it's a no-go for me. So something like this comes in really handy when I want something similar, but better for warm weather. So at number 2, we've got Dior Fahrenheit Cologne. And actually for a Dior, you can pick this up for a pretty good price as far as discounters go. Dior is one of those houses that doesn't get discounted very heavily, but this one is probably your most affordable one from Dior right now. Don't hold me to that, that's off the top of my head, but I think it is. That's gonna take me to number 1. This is a fragrance that I do have backup bottles for, and we'll touch on that in just a second. If you've seen my spring lists in the past, you probably already know what this is. I apologize for having this at number 1 again, but it is what it is. Gucci Pour Homme 2, or Gucci Pour Homme 2. This has black tea, cinnamon, violet leaf, and tobacco as some of the notes, and it came out in 2007. So this is a fragrance I've talked about a ton in the past. It's just very relaxing, very classy. One of my absolute favorite tea notes in all the fragrance. niche designer, whatever. The black tea here is fantastic. It's got a great warm cinnamon tobacco combo in here as well. Just very smooth, very classy, freaking great fragrance to smell. The bottle is simple but beautiful, and the fragrance just always makes me happy when I wear it. When I spray that on and I get that big whiff of the opening, just puts me in a good mood. And where I live, basically nobody is gonna be wearing this ever. And realistically, the only people that seem to wear this are people that are hardcore into fragrances. So that's another positive for this one. Wear this, set yourself apart a little bit. It's not gonna cost all that much, and it's just a relaxing, fantastic tea, tobacco, cinnamon scent. So there we go, Gucci Pour Homme 2, my #1 scent for spring 2019 designer style. All right guys, let me know what you're gonna be wearing this spring in the comments below, at least designers, I guess. And I'll be back soon with the top 10 niche list, niche and indie, for 2019. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys again next time.